ready. Go ahead.
Ali Gauch, welcome to our series of living history interviews for PCACAC's 50th anniversary.
Thank you.
Happy to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about when and how you got started down the path of a professional working in the school to college transition.
Well, people often say they stumbled or fall into the profession, but I was a marketing major in the late 80s when people very quietly said marketing around admissions counseling, and I was a very involved undergraduate and decided my senior year to pursue a master's degree in student personnel services and higher education, and I really targeted either the transition out with career services or the transition in with admissions directly when I started grad school. But I had an internship in the admissions office, and when I finished my master's degree, took that first job as an assistant director at James Madison University in 1989.
Okay.
And I have stuck with it consistently.
And from there to?
I was there about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Went to my first PCAC on our 25th anniversary there. And then I went on to University of Mary Washington, then Mary Washington College, and I've just made a transition from that organization. I was there 19 and a half years, and I just started as the Dean of Enrollment Services at Germanna Community College about 6 months ago.
Share a little bit with the folks who are going to see this interview later, some of the differences between what you did at Mary Washington and what you're doing now at Germanna. How are the roles different?
Oh, big changes.
One of the things that PCAC has not done a whole lot over the years is to involve people from the community college segment. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in those differences.
That has been of great interest to me because I certainly went with the idea of as much outreach and trying to figure out how to identify the people in the community college who would best really serve in this audience. And it really is the counselor role at the community college, and they frequently have one person who specializes in articulation agreements and transfer. And then admissions is a very different process, being in an open enrollment, and many of the community colleges don't have recruiters. However, mine does, and trying to figure out how to get them involved in the process as well. I think the difference is the very broad spectrum of where people are in their lives. So while 60% of the students at my campus are traditional age, coming out of high school and starting with the community college in transfer degree programs, the other 40% represent people going back from the workforce and non-traditional students who are picking up after having children or leaving the military. So the breadth of the variation of the audience is very different. So the things that you consider in trying to find a best match and make a plan for them, you spend a lot of time thinking about where you complete your degree online, for some of our populations.
Are there major initiatives helping some of those non-traditional students coming back into education to take advantage of experiences they've had in the workplace that can be applied toward their programs at Germanna?
Yes, and one of the things in my role, I'm overseeing admissions, registration, financial aid, veterans, and doing a lot of outreach to identify experiences and learning that you may have had in the military and how that might translate better. This is something that, for many years, you might be a corpsman in the military and then decide you want to go into a medical field, and there has not been a good articulation of the skills that you've learned on the combat front. And so trying to develop new articulation agreements with those kinds of programs, those are the kinds of things that we're working with the veteran population, and how to encourage them to take advantage of testing for life experience. We also are developing internship courses, which is kind of a new thing for the community colleges, but we've found that that's really been a great opportunity within the business curriculum to try to take advantage of life experience and try to get our students into the workforce while they're also completing their courses.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any favorite stories about people who been a strong influence on your career? A particular mentoring anecdote that you'd like to share? How individuals perhaps drew you into Potomac and Chesapeake and leadership roles in this
Yeah.
organization?
Well, I think part of the reason why I stayed so long at the University of Mary Washington was my mentor, Marty Wilder, who's also a past president of this group. And so I remember, the encouragement always to go to the conference and being walked around to be introduced to everyone, and that made a tremendous impact. Then even going to NACAC meetings and sitting in and going to the general membership meeting and waking up and attending assembly when I wasn't an elected official, certainly talking about your role in this organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that encouragement, in fact, there were times when there were so many people at Mary Washington who were involved in the leadership. Marty Wilder and Jennifer Blair were on the executive board, so I couldn't get involved and go because then there'd be nobody left back at the office. So when we cycled through the leadership, it was like, okay, I'd like to get more involved. So for many years I did just presentations at the conference, but I would say that would be sort of my mentor to get me involved in the organization. And I think he planned the first PCACAC conference. I didn't know him at the time, but for me it was the one in Roanoke, after I think one of the hotels went out of business. They ended up moving it the last minute.
25th anniversary.
The
Audrey Hill was
25th,
president president-elect that year.
Oh, Audrey, and so he was president, and Audrey was
Yeah,
president-elect.
yeah.
I was trying to remember which way it was, but I remember that ball because I had never heard of the electric slide. And I remember everybody being dressed formally and wearing feather masks, and that's when I learned the electric slide. And I think that then there was a kitchen fire and people were out in their pajamas with the alarm in the middle of the night, and you really get to know people when you're all standing in your bedclothes waiting to get back in the hotel. So I immediately thought, this is a fun group, and of course the hallmark after that this is the association that hugs the most is a good fit for me. And it's great to have such wonderful learning experiences and value those opinions of people, but go beyond the sessions and find that there's such wonderful relationships that have been developed.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts about major concerns that are going to confront our profession in the next 10 or 15 years?
I do. Now that I'm also working with financial aid, the general affordability of college is, I think, going to really face us as a major barrier for so many, and I'm delighted to be working in a very economical way to get partway through your education, but really generations doing better than their parents when they finish college, that seems unlikely with this generation. Maybe we need some time for the economic recovery, but the process I just see evolving, and I'm worried about the immediacy and condensing of the process for students to really have the maturity to really view schools and to know them. And maybe I'm clinging to the past of the college process, that a quick search on the internet and applying online the July before your senior year scares me. I think developmentally people need that process through their senior year. So as we've embraced technology, I'm still hoping that we will maintain that commitment to the conversation and the developmental exploration.
Allie, thank you so much for your
Sure.
thoughts and sharing a little bit of your story. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Dal.